Morning folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School, and this morning what I wanted to do in our trapping series, and again, trapping season hasn't opened yet, so we're just doing preparation work, pre-scouts, getting our traps dipped, dyed, and all those good things. And the next thing I want to talk about is trap tuning. And there's a lot of little simple things that we need to talk about with trap tuning, but really people make it more complicated than it needs to be. And I want to dispel a couple of fallacies about storing traps as well. So stay with me. Okay, so let's first talk about long spring type traps, coil spring type traps, the traps that have these dogs as a trigger and a pan. And that's really going to be the most tuning you're going to have to do, unless you have to change a spring or change a coil. And that is very rarely going to happen unless you just let that thing go. This trap right here is an old Victor. I would guarantee you that this trap's every bit of 50 years old or older. And as long as they're taken care of, they're still as good today as they were 50 years ago. Now, if I want to adjust something on this trap, I can just lock the frame of the trap really tightly in a vise. That allows me to break the springs down, right down like this, and lets the jaws flop free. The adjustment that you're going to need to make is generally going to be back here, right here on the frame, so that you can get this dog to where the pan is level just before releasing the dog. And that's really what you want. Now there's a tool for that, and this is what the tool looks like. And you could probably manufacture this, but for me it was just a whole lot easier to buy the tool for $8 and have it forever. And what it does is it slips right over the back of that dog connection there where the frame is, and you can bend that thing up or backwards to adjust where that trigger sits and how far forward or back it is, so that when you lift that pan up right here, I'll try to get a close-up of that for you, you get that level, quick release. All right, so I think I'm zoomed in on this real good, but I'm afraid if I put my fingers in there, it's going to go out of focus. But we've got the dog right here, and we've got the pan. And they're both connected to the frame of the trap. And this tool just slips right over the top of the end of that frame tongue, so you can move it back and forth. And it's connected to the frame here, usually either bolted or welded. And what you're trying to accomplish is, you're trying to accomplish getting this thing adjusted to where this pan sits perfectly level, but you don't have a whole lot of the dog sticking into this area. Now, you can do lots of things. You can go in here and you can make adjustments by running a file inside here to make this a little deeper if you want to. You can actually take and file a notch in there and file a simple notch on here called the night latch, which the Minnesota brand traps come with those anyway, so that once you hook that all the way up, when you pull it down and it hits that night latch, it kind of clicks. But you don't have to have that. I didn't use that on traps for years before I discovered Minnesota brands. So what you really want is you want to attach this tool here and make sure that when your pan's sitting level, just look at it, and when it's sitting level with the trap, like it is now, you want there to be just barely any dog in there at all. And this one needs to come forward just a little bit. And once you think you've got it, test it, you know. That's why you've got this thing in a vise. Come down here and break it down. Hold your strong jaw. You don't have to worry about the weak jaw. Hold your strong jaw and come up underneath that thing. If you're underneath this weak jaw right here, touching this pan, the trap can't get you. All right? Now you can look at that thing and pull that pan down to where it's level and see what you got. If the trap goes off, it's not going to get you because your hands aren't in the trap. I'll show you that. So now I'm level and I barely got any, see that? That thing went off on a hair trigger. So I could really go just a little bit, probably farther forward with that thing. And I'll do that right now. We'll go just a touch further forward and we'll reset the trap. So again, I'm going to back up out of this thing a little bit for you. All right. So again, drop that strong jaw down and hold it. With your finger, it's easy to do when you got it in a vise. Come underneath that weak jaw. Get that thing held up on the dog. So there's no way that trap can get you while you move your other hand out of the way. Then come in and move that pan to level and see where you're at. If that pan's level and you got just a little bit of trigger left on there, that's what you want. You don't want much pressure on this thing at all to set that trap off. So that's a good tuned trap right there. Okay, so now let's discuss these Canterbury type traps. You can see that one side of this, the spring is in the sprung position or the open position. And this one I've got closed with a safety latch. I store my traps with the safety latches on. I don't want to have to fool with setting traps in the field. I would rather go out there and have to reset that trap on location if there's an animal in it and carry a set of trap setters than have to set one trap, open another trap, and then get a trap in place. You're saving half the work by doing it ahead of time. And if you've got extra traps with you because you're truck trapping or whatever the case may be, you can always just pull the trap, especially with a Canterbury that's got an animal in it, throw it in the bed of your truck or in your sled, put a new trap in its exact spot where that one was if you plan to catch another animal there, that's already set up and ready to go, and you didn't have to set anything. And then you can use trap setters or whatever you want to do back at home in your garage or in your fur shed and not have to worry about doing any of the work in the cold in the field. And that's very convenient as well. But I always carry a set of trap setters in my trap sled or in my four-wheeler with me when I'm trapping, just in case, because I generally don't carry extra traps. So I like to be able to open the trap up, get the animal out. But sometimes I'll just carry the whole trap out and I'll reset it the next day when I go out and leave that trap set empty for the night. So storing them closed like this does not hurt those springs. Lots of people will tell you that you should never store your Canterburies with the springs compressed like this and the safety latches on. But I got it on pretty good authority from some of the instructors that have been doing this for years and years at the Trappers College in Indiana that it's not a problem. Now, these springs will weaken over time, and I'm talking years. This trap here is probably 5-6 years old at least, and it's just as good as it was the day it was bought. But if you think your springs are getting weak, you don't necessarily have to replace them. You can just open them up a little bit and put them back on. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to leave that spring in the sprung position like it is right now. Put that spring in a vise and just push it to one side enough that you can get it over the frame of the trap, just like that. And you can do that on both sides. Come in here and do the same thing on this side. Open that dude up just a little bit like that so that the frame will slip through it. So now I've got an opening here, a gap there, and I've got a gap here. And now I can close that spring up with a pair of setters. And I can do that freehand, or I can just do it and lock it down in a vise right here and make it easy on myself. Come in here with a pair of setters just like this. Close this thing down. Get the trap out of the way. The trap's kind of getting in my way a little bit there. Close that thing down just like this. And put my spring over the top of it, my locking spring. Just like that. I almost didn't get it quite on there. There we go. And now I've got that spring safe. So now I can come in here and manipulate this trap out of the spring altogether, just like this from both sides. Got one side out. Get this other side to come out. And if you don't have it pushed over far enough to get the trap out, just grab yourself a piece of rebar, push it out a little bit further, just like that. Sooner or later you're going to get that thing where you get those two through there easy enough, just like that. Now you've got that spring off, you've turned this into a single spring Canterbury, and they're very effective that way, so don't discount that as a viable trap as well, only having one spring on that Canterbury, because it'll still kill lots and lots of animals just like that. All right, so let's go back to the spring now. And what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to release that safety catch off of that spring. Grab it up here, a little further up in here, like this. Release that. Get that off of there and let that spring open up. And now what we'll do is, all we have to do is come in here and grab this spring and just unspring it a little bit. Pull it with your hand and unspring it. And that's going to add new life into that spring really, really quickly, just by doing that. Then you can compress the spring back up and put it back on the trap. Just make sure that your spring's out of the way first, just like this. Find yourself a pivot point there. Nothing's going to get in your way when you're doing this. Pivot that thing around and latch it up just like that, okay? Move that spring back as far as you can get it out of your way, because when you get ready to put this back on there, you're going to want that part of it out of your way. So you're going to come in here with that one, drop it down. And this is kind of one of those Chinese puzzles, because you've got the springs going two different ways on here, but you've got to get it in the trap. There, just like that, okay? Then we can come in here, we can leave that thing just like it is until we get this thing back where we want it. Bring that back in place, just like that. Come around to the other side, bring it back in place, just like this. Till they're even, and now that's just like new money, all right? Now we've got a heavier spring again without having to buy a new spring or replace anything. All right, guys, that was just a real quick video on some trap tuning techniques to tune up the pan on things like coil springs, long springs, and then also a way to rejuvenate the springs or take the springs off and put them back on if you're buying new ones of your Canterbury traps. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.